Welcome to the prototype demo of the series game, or applied game, When Life Gives You Lemons. Let's start. I'll just run you through all the main functions, the way the game looks, and try to explain a bit around it. Okay, so here we can enter our name. Let's say my name is Poppy. And let's start. Okay, so here we press space to start the interaction. I'll just point out a few general things that you can see here. So there's the task list. Later we will be filling this with tasks that we can actually finish. There is an energy bar, which shows you how much energy you have. And then we have player stats. So statistic is quite typical for RPGs, that you can kind of build your skills and keep an eye on like how well you're doing. So here we have these 4 skills, which are really close to the game's objectives that were decided beforehand. So the learning objectives in the game. And we have an inventory. So this is the backpack. But for now, let's start the intro dialogue, which already explains and introduces a few things. The boat was gently rocking with the waves. So there's a lot of options all the time where the player, like this is for player agency, to make you feel like you have a say in what the story is doing. You know, interactive fiction. Not all of those choices are consequential. Okay, so here we have the first appearance of the helper character. So these are the collectibles in the game. They are very related to the goals as explained before, so the XPs in emotion, perspective, health, and self-advocacy. The cards have different colors depending on which skill they are for. So in this case we have surprise, which is an emotion, and since it's a level 1 emotion, you get 1 XP for emotion with this card. And this card is also related to the situation that you just played through, so there is a context. Collected. So we have a first skill check here. It's a very easy one, since, as you can tell, it requires you to have 1 XP in emotion. If you don't try to analyze the emotion, then you don't need any skills for that. Let's say feel bad about it. Okay, so we got another card. This time it's a health and safety card. As you can see, it's green. And here it's the game's prompting you, or the narrator's prompting you to reflect on, different ways in which you could feel bad about it, without asking you to already know what about it, is bad. But just a bit of a prompting to make you think about your emotions, reflect on them. Alright, so here we get some backstory, some narrative. So this narrative, this whole magical side, is meant to integrate the mechanics a bit better, so you can have these goals. Because everything is set in real life, as you will be able to see, so it's all quite realistic, but there are obviously these features like gaining XPs and having these random cards appear, and it seemed a bit artificial to just not explain that. And, well, it seemed like the target group would be quite happy to have some magic in there. So I thought, why not give it this backstory, where actually you become this hero, or, well, it's kind of like a hero's journey, from not having the skills to gaining them and becoming more powerful, and interacting with these guardians of the island, as you will see. Okay, so anyway, the island of Grandin is not just any island, because Grandin is home to the 4 wise guardians of emotion, perspective, health, and self-advocacy. Over generations, certain people have come here to master these powers under their guidance. So you lead your normal life, but you also collect memories. They will appear to you as cards sent by one of the guardians, hence why they're different colors. The red cards are from the guardian of emotion, the yellow ones from the perspective, the green ones from health, and the blue ones from self-advocacy, ignoring the fact that this is actually purple. There are some bugs still in the game on different levels. This is a prototype. We did actually playtest with almost exactly this version, so I did get some feedback and I already implemented some of it as well. It says you need to go visit the guardians to test your skills, just share a memory and solve a riddle. So yeah, this is actually one of the features that isn't properly implemented yet. In the playtest I kind of replaced it with something else, but the idea is that since the game overall doesn't tell you very much of what's right or wrong, you only get feedback in the sense that a decision will have a consequence. Let's say it like that. If you don't like the consequence, then that's your feedback, right? But it's quite natural. But I wanted to introduce this more deterministic element where you can really see, maybe it's also satisfying, like you kind of have a skill that you want to build and you need to test yourself to actually gain more points. So there should be a yes or a no answer. And this is really similar to a lot of the other serious games that exist for autism and other applications, where you have these really, it's like a test, right? Like you get a situation and they ask you, so what's this? Is this correct? Is it wrong? Should this be done or this other thing? And there's a yes or no answer. So this is kind of integrating the potential of having an actual test situation, but it's kind of voluntary because you don't have to actually do it, only if you want to power up. And yeah, you don't want to leave this unmotivated. Why do I need these powers? Well, here's an example. If you're trying to make a friend, but your friend is sad, then you could try to analyze why they are sad. But you can only do this well if you understand emotions. So if the action the action that you're trying to do requires at least 1 emotion XP, stands for experience point, the option will say diff, so difficulty 1 EXP. Got it. Alright, so this cat is kind of like a helper character. It's in your backpack. And it kind of appears like this. So I can give you tips. New situations can be scary because you don't know what to expect. You could plan ahead by making a list. And indeed, we can make a list now. You want to make some plans? Yes. In this case, let's do that. Okay, so we have the option to skip this. We don't have to call mom, right? Like there's an option here, but this is meant to structure your gameplay a little bit, to not leave players kind of on their own, like, oh, what can I do? What should I be doing now? Let's just add all of these things. You and your friend Jessica had a strange conversation over chat. You're not sure if it was a fight, but... So here I introduce this previous friend Jessica. This is for the simple purpose that in this demo I can't include any actual conflict situation that the player needs to solve without first building up relationships. So on the one hand, when they arrive on the island, you will see they will build up some relationships, but then you can't start right away with a conflict. But to showcase how a conflict might look, I added Jessica, who we're just pretending is already our friend, so we can kind of see a more complicated situation. Yeah, So we're just adding all of these tasks for now, so I can show you how to actually do those. And now we need to go home to the player's house, or like the place where they're staying. And this option to watch TV and look at some magazines is kind of to not force them to immediately interact with other characters in the game. Just chill a bit, get used to the way the game works, the environment and everything. For now, let's add TV. And so that's it. We've done the intro dialogue, which kind of acted a bit like a tutorial as well, if you noticed. And as you can see up here now, we have a task list which says indeed the things that we added to it. So call mom, check messages from Jessica, make a friend, and watch TV. Well, I can briefly show you the magazine. Looks a bit like this. So you can also add different topics and thematize them without actually having to involve the player very actively in this dialogue and the situation. But let's not look at the magazine right now. We wanted to watch TV, right? So let's do that. This is a bit of an Easter egg. The 52 Hertz whale did exist, or does exist, don't know, should be still alive. This was a story that was in the media a few years ago. I don't know if the players of this game would know it because they're quite young, but well, it's a symbolic story, I guess, about a whale that can communicate with other whales because they speak a different language, which I thought was a little bit fitting for autism. But really this is just to showcase that you can add Easter eggs or little snippets that just make the story a bit more complete and aren't all just for education. But actually, as you can see, we get an option here, you know, in a light way to start building up our XPs, feel good about getting some points right at the start without yet having to do anything really difficult, you know. Let's turn off the TV now. What else? We need to call mom, check messages with Jessica, and make a friend. So we can interact with different people, like you can choose your friends, right? Like you don't have to decide, okay, this is a group of people. This loner guy. Oh, a cat. There's a bit of a cat theme if you haven't noticed. This is definitely due to the participants. All of us like cats a lot in the co-design workshops, so hence the cats everywhere. Actually, what you can notice here as well, oh no, it's gone, is that you can get energy. Some actions will make you lose energy, so when you see this red minus something, you're losing energy. This energy thing, the purpose is that you get a limit to how many actions you can do, how many exhausting actions you can do, and to train a bit of self-awareness of, you know, also not setting the expectations like you have to do all of these things in one day. It's okay to take breaks, it's okay to recharge. Pay attention to your energy, essentially. Try not to run out of it, also in real life. So that's what the energy is for. Okay, let's leave the cat now. Let's make a friend. Okay, so we've got Jasmine. By the way, these dialogues, these interactions are based on the co-design workshops for the most part. Some are inspired by other research related to, well, experiences that autistic girls, adolescent autistic girls have. some things that are known, but I think, you know, there's always more to be added to the game as well. Also, fun fact, Jasmine only talks about the cat because you've interacted with it, so there's a way in the game to, well, make the dialogue behave in a way that reflects your previous actions. So with if statements, say like, if you've interacted with a cat, then Jessica will say X. If you haven't, then she will not say that. So a lot of context. There's a lot of context action that you can use to influence the outcome of a situation, and the outcomes are usually related to the relationships you make with the characters in the game. This is also to show that there are different types of relationships you can have, different levels of friendship, like not necessarily from 0 to 10. I didn't want to make it numbers, right? But like, it could be something like, oh, you're an acquaintance, or you're a friend, or you just bonded over a cat, you know? Let's go through this real quick. I won't read out. Get another card. Perspective taking this time. Getting introduced another character that you can meet later on. And we get some more perspective taking skills. This is useful background knowledge that you hopefully apply later on. Okay, so the helper character makes us aware that we've made a friend, well, perhaps an acquaintance, but if you talk more, you're on a good way to become better friends. There's a bit of a tip. Also, we've probably now done, like, checked that off our little task list. Let's exchange phone numbers. Yeah, a little bit of thinking here, ambiguous. Let's not add this to our tasks right now. And we get an invite. So here you can see it's possible to, oh wait, where's this card? It's possible to add more tasks to the task list as you go. So it keeps growing, but it also, you know, you check them off as you go. And this seemed to be very motivating to the girls during the playtests. I think this was one of the main features that they really found. It kept them going to have this next task, and they were trying to go through all of them. So it was good to structure the gameplay. Alright, add this. Right now, visiting the cafe is actually not possible yet, but we've added it anyway. And as you can see, making a friend isn't on here anymore. So calling mom and checking messages with Jessica both actually require us to go to our inventory and use our phone. Briefly before that, I will show you two other parts. So here's just a cute note. This again is kind of to flesh out the narrative a little bit, give it a bit more depth, a bit more flavor. And here a reminder, things to do not to feel bad. This is kind of to build a little list of coping strategies. Similar to the task list, the game will actually prompt you to add things here, but not force you to do so. So if some character comes up with a good coping strategy and mentions it, you're free to add it if you find that this might be something you want to use in the future. But if it's not for you, you don't have to add it. If you don't like listening to music when you feel stressed, then you don't have to. but it allows you to explore it a little bit and remind yourself that those are things you can do. Also the experience cards, well, right now they don't all come up on top, so it's a bit annoying to go through, but you found 6 of 36, so it's quite a lot to find. Well, we know these. Let's go to the phone. We wanted to call Mom back, so let's do that. So there's, actually it was nice in one of the playtests, the girl made her mom read out the dialogue here, like her part, the voiceover. And voiceover might indeed be a good solution to add here, because I think there is a lot of text. This is all very simplified, and voice in itself can also be useful as a tool, because in real life a lot of conversation, a lot of communication uses voice, and the inflections of your voice might say something about, well, like the tone of your voice might indicate whether something is meant sarcastically or not. The emotion conveyed in voice is important to understand as a context. So voiceover could really be something pretty simple to add that actually adds a lot of value, but also makes it a bit more difficult, and maybe a little bit more engaging on a positive note, because reading a lot can be difficult. So here we add, the mom gives you a recommendation of what to do, and you can add some more things to your plans. Okay, so the task is gone. Let's just go and see the messages with Jessica. So we get a bit of background. You and Jessica have been friends for a long time, but she was being weird the last time. Now we go through your chat conversation. This actually comes up in a different UI to make it look like a chat. This could probably look a bit better, but as this is a prototype, I didn't want to spend too much time on making it look really good in case this doesn't turn out to be a good feature. So here again, the player has an influence on what happened, even though it's in the past, so they can make it their own and make it feel a bit more like what they would actually have said in that situation. So as you can see, this conflict here is about people changing and changing interests, and for a lot of autistic girls, it seems to be quite a relevant situation that you might have one friend that you stick with instead of having multiple, and if that one friend grows apart from you, that can be quite hard because, well, you have nothing else, no one else to go to, right? So you might be very you might really want to stick to that friendship even though your interests might change, and while you are still interested in a certain hobby that you used to do together, your friend might change and actually now she wants to do something else, and that's something to negotiate and to think about, and to learn how to deal with, either dealing with rejection or coming up with a strategy to talk this through and figure out maybe how to stay friends, or maybe figure out that she actually did turn out to be someone you don't want to be friends with. There are different outcomes, and again, this is about different relationship outcomes. It's not about dictating which way to go is the right way to go. It's whether you're happy with the outcome or not. And there seems to also be this prominent thing of seeing things very black and white. So if there is a conflict, is it my fault or is it your fault? There is no in between, right? Of course, we want to challenge that idea and introduce some nuance, and say, okay, maybe it's not just, maybe if you say sorry all the time and just take all the blame, that won't make a good relationship either, even though you might avoid conflict in the moment, or it might avoid escalating the conflict. And even saying sorry could be helpful. Like, let's see, if we say sorry here, yeah, Jessica actually doesn't react well to this. So she says, "This is why I didn't want to say this, now you're just making me feel guilty." Actually, it'd probably be good to have some more explanation here on hand. What should I say then? And now Jessica avoids. So this is simulating a situation that isn't actually all that easy to solve. And now this part is over, but the narrator prompts the player to actually analyze what happened, because we're going to work towards solving this conflict. And the player isn't forced to do so. You can avoid the problem, but that will have consequences. Or you can try to figure out what happened here, and make an effort to, try to save your friendship. And there are some that are harder than others, and they use different skills. As you can see, we haven't really collected that many XPs yet. So actually, saying sorry is quite easy. It doesn't require you to really reflect on what happened. You can just kind of just go for it. De-escalate the situation. Requires one perspective taking XP, which we have, so it should be quite straightforward. We're probably not going to fail. With the other two, there's a bit of a risk, because we're a bit lower than the different difficulty required of the XP required. Try to see it from her perspective. Oh, we've succeeded. Okay. So this is kind of just telling you as Jessica is seeing it here. And the helper character is giving you some tips. Don't pretend to like things you don't like to keep a friend. But if you think you might be interested, try to explain to her why grips are hard and how she could help. So again, this is just giving you some advice based on what you're learning right now, and you can take it or leave it. Alright, so we've done that. Very well. What else? Again, the cafe, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to make it interactive yet. There's nothing we can do. I guess it's closed. Let's go to stims. Okay. There isn't very much we can do here yet, because I added this feature a bit late, as it was suggested to me very much in the last moment for this project. But there was a nice conversation with an autistic woman who really struggled growing up to accept her stimming as something that she needs to do, and not being embarrassed about it, explaining to others why she needs to do it, and understanding, what there might be some alternatives and so on. So stimming is self-stimulatory behavior that you can do to calm yourself down or to cope. And a lot of autistic people find that this is something they automatically do, or something that is helpful for them. And it can be, there are some people who use visual stims, like things to look at, that help them focus, center themselves, calm themselves. There are people who use movement, so like flapping, or there are people who like to listen to sounds or feel something, textures, or fidget with something to focus their thoughts. So this shop is meant as a way to explore, well, first of all, understand what it is, because I also noticed that in the playtests, one participant, for example, didn't really know what stimming was. It's not to tell you you should stim, it's just to tell you a bit about autism, right? Like, this is something that you might already do, and this is what it is, and this is why you might be doing it. Also to normalize it and say, okay, alright, whatever people say, this is actually fine. Like in this game there's a whole shop that encourages you to find healthy ways to stim and explore different ways of doing so. So right now it's empty, as I said. If you go looking at the catalog, you can see the categories, even though they're empty. Go on things to touch. Now it should, if this was fully built, give you different options for here. Maybe try find something in your house that has this texture, or it'll give you a picture of a you know, a stim toy that you could buy. And actually some other participant also said they would really like to have this shop in the game so they can purchase things like game objects, game items. And I don't want to have anything in the game that requires you to use actual money, but we can use play money and actually have the player acquire certain items like a stim toy that their character will now own, and maybe then you can use it in the game also to recharge your energy, something like that. But for now, this feature is, well, it's there just to show the possibility of adding it, but it doesn't really do anything. Alright, finally I will just briefly show you the Power Guardian environment, even though, yeah, well, there is not much we can do here. As I already hinted at, I didn't implement this feature at all. This was also more of an idea that came a bit later. But in theory, the way it would work here is that you trade one of your perspective cards, if you have any, and we have two, that with the Guardian of Perspective, and so they give you a riddle to test your skills, right? So for example, I think we got the card sharing, so maybe the Guardian would show you a video of someone in a situation where they should or should not share something, and there should be a right or wrong answer in that case, specifically for that situation. Maybe it's a series of questions. It can be very much like a test situation, and if the player succeeds, then they get more XPs in their perspective skill. Yeah. And this is pretty much what we can currently do in this prototype, in this little demo. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you.